My thoughts around Action SA were that they were going to apply a similar sort of strategy they had in the 2021 local government elections, which was they said they didn't want to spread themselves too thin, so they concentrated resources within, I think it was only 2 or 3 provinces, and within those provinces, they didn't even contest within all of the wards. But what's most important about that strat plan that they had put down is they had shown the potential to also eat into the ANC voter base, which not a lot of centrist sort of organizations have displayed themselves capable of doing. And that's why a lot of people who actually have an active interest in politics kind of were like, more new parties. And, it's just going for the same middle class target market. So it kind of feels like there's a lot of traffic within that space. And hence, I thought Action SA would be smart about that and perhaps establish itself. And this is, a few days ago, they had a gala dinner somewhere and I happened to bump into them. But, I made it clear to some of their members that I think I was a bit disappointed in that they didn't concentrate a large amount of their campaign specifically in Gauteng, because it takes time to develop that ability, but you need to read the room politically. You need to be able to have a reading of the ground, and that means what is the prevailing mood at the time. There seems to have been a real appetite for Action SA. I'm speaking within the sort of confines of Johannesburg and Gauteng region. Herman Mashaba had history on his side in that he was already he's been mayor of Johannesburg before, although that was under the DA. I would like to look at those sort of favorability ratings at the time, but I remember there was a great deal of popularity. He was seen as a man of action and that wanted to clean up the system, and he wanted to turn things around. I also think that it speaks to somewhat of political maturity in saying that based on his dynamics, there were areas or places where he needed to work with the EFF. And unfortunately, if you don't have that kind of political maturity and you only look at what the national leader is saying, but you don't drill down to regional dynamics, of which other leaders as well have said in their region or in their space, the EFF has been more of a force for good than it has been what the overall national image is to some people, which, others call them rebel rousers, destructive, calling for violence and all kind of things. But I really thought that much of Action SA's campaign would be concentrated within the Gauteng region specifically. With the ANC polling around 35% in Gauteng, there was perhaps a chance to push them maybe 5 to 10% further down, who knows. But it just seemed that there was an appetite to have Action SA, and its kind of personnel in place here, and I think that should have really been driven home. I think they've spread themselves very thinly. I don't know what value there is in barely filling up like Isivivana Center in Khayelitsha in Cape Town. I mean, I've been there many times. It's basically some university lecture halls are much bigger than that space. I don't know if such things are really victories, or it's just about ego politics, really. Yes, there might be a need expressed on the ground for a certain party, but again, you need to really look at your prospects. And I know you only really know by getting your feet wet, but again, the DA has used a very smart playbook, holding up Cape Town in the Western Cape. Okay, people can critique what they want to critique about such spaces. Not that I think ANC townships are drastically better around the country, but in essence, like, it's made a home, it's given them a base to fight from. And I thought that Gauteng could have really become that, especially the style of leadership within Action SA. From my reading of this space, it seems to fit into the mold of leadership people look out for here, and the kind of language that they want to hear spoken, and the kind of matters, bread and butter, that they want addressed. So I think there was something missed in that. I didn't feel their presence. Yes, I see the posters, but I didn't feel Action SA's presence in Gauteng, and that would be my feedback to them, that was a bit disappointing. So yeah, I just hope that they would have rolled out that 2021 playbook that they used for the LGE, local government elections, in their contestation for provincial and national elections. But yeah, let's see how they do. I would have also, maybe to just add to that, have said that Rise Mzansi has been one of the parties that seems to have given a bit more thought to the agrarian question, to the land question. What it would have maybe have been smart is to have them target, say, the Eastern Cape, as Songezo's from the area, their leader. I think he can make himself be understood well, and yeah, make some solid cases there for what you are proposing, and yeah, and maybe use that as your base, very strong base before spreading out. I don't think that's a bad idea at all. It's a playbook that still can work very well. But yes, I know there will always be hands that people who put their hands up in different provinces and regions that want you to launch. They're going to put you under pressure to do that. But I don't know, perhaps this was maybe a trick missed, where the use of resources, especially from parties that are polling in the 1.5, 2, 3, not even really touching the 4% mark nationally, could have maybe used as a plan. Maybe they've thought about it in that way and it's not been successful before. But yeah, I think those are just kind of the disappointments that I have. Yes, look, no one can tell any organization to where and where not to campaign. But I think there's definitely, if maybe said from a more mature political standpoint, there is a bit of an argument to make if you say that you want to remove the ANC, but you don't go into the provinces, like where they've got a strong traditional voter base, and try and unhinge them there, because I think there'll be a lot of ballot splitting. This time I think my choices from a regional perspective and nationally will be far more aligned than they were before. I often used to split my ballot, and that's perfectly normal, and I would advise people to do that. If maybe the DA is doing fantastic work where you're living, then yeah, kudos. Give them a shout. I mean, Chris Pappas is doing amazing work where he is mayor, and he's now their premier candidate. So if people in KZN feel that that's the kind of guy that is doing excellent work where they are, then awesome. And then maybe, where you're from, the DA is doing a pathetic job and you want to remove them, that's your democratic right. But maybe you still feel good about what they're doing nationally and you give them a shout. That's also perfectly okay. You're allowed to split your ballot. It's something that I've done for various reasons, and there's nothing wrong with that. If the party's not aligned with your values and the direction you want to see South Africa going in, then yeah, punish them nationally. But if you feel that regionally or, the province you stay in, they're doing an excellent job and you want to give them a broader mandate or a longer mandate, then by all means, give them another chance where you are. That's how it's supposed to be done. But yeah, I think a very I don't know what value we are getting in terms of what the IEC is also doing in terms of voter education. I know many people have expressed that people know almost nothing about the current governing system, and I think that heavily favors the ANC. There's a lot of them that have been introduced to politics through the convince and confuse paradigm, which in itself is not sustainable. As you can see, their rapid decline. You're far better off at actually investing in people, proper political education, and building that critical mass and building an informed mass as well over time. But if you want to build a strategy of convince and confuse, it can only last for so long, and eventually all the whole house comes down, basically. So yeah, main and initial point, I'm a bit disappointed in Action SA's distribution of resources. I definitely think Gauteng should have been there, and being part of that sort of golden triangle, Johannesburg, Cape Town, and Durban. I think really they should have thought about this better, because yeah, I think they could have done a whole lot better if there was more a sort of a pointed use of resources than what they've decided to eventually do, which is spread themselves thin across the entire South Africa.